Hello everyone and welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and we have another commentary for you today, and this is technically the pilot episode of Superboy, but wasn't the first episode that aired. This was a requested commentary. They did ask that we do both versions of Countdown to Nowhere, and I do have the alternate version, but the problem is that's kind of a difficult version to get hold of, and even if you manage to get a copy of it, I mean, my copy has commercials and that's still included, so there would be no chance of you guys being able to sync your copy up and watch alongside us. So it will just be, this version of the episode. But yeah, we're not really looking forward to this one, are we? Because it's not a good episode.
It's moments where it's really good.
Yeah, it has its moments.
It's a little cringy.
Yeah, mostly because of the act. Oh, actually, no, he wasn't even in this episode, so I can't blame it on him. You know who I was probably going to say just then, but yes. I was Jewel of Technical. Did I just disappear from your screen for a second?
No, you were there. You were still there.
Okay, good. My internet seems to be messing around, so this may end up being another lost episode. Fingers crossed it's not. But anyway, get your copy of the show to sync up alongside us. If this is your first time watching alongside us, this is not a typical YouTube reaction video. You'll not be seeing like other videos of this kind where you'll see clips cut in and out, you'll hear audio and all of that stuff. You won't get that. You may get just a sort of like heavily filtered version that will sort of go up here, and that's just so you can keep synced up with us. Like if at some point we're getting wildly out of sync with you for whatever reason, it just allows you to get back in time. But yeah, if it's not there, that means that Warner Brothers has copyright strike this video and I've had to remove it. So apologies for that. Get ready. Are you ready to hit play, Chris?
I'm ready. If you're ready.
Excellent. I'll just count you in with the 3, 2, 1 play and just hit play when I say 3, 2, 1, play.
So episode that doesn't start with the opening credits.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's funny. So many shows, especially genre shows, open with like a cold open. Maybe it sets up the episode. Maybe it's just a fun little gag. Like Lois and Clark had a ton of those where it would have nothing to do with the episode at all, but it would just be fun. Superboy never had that. This is the only episode that does it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I get that it's the pilot, so maybe they were still figuring things out, but I mean, does the actual title sequence even play in this episode? Because I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I've watched it. Do they just skip over it entirely, or will we just get it randomly placed in a minute?
It probably gets randomly placed in a minute.
Well, I wonder why they didn't do it with more episodes. It's a format I've always enjoyed with television. Let's face it, some of the best starts of Star Trek episodes are those sorts of things, and Doctor Who does the same thing.
Yeah.
Although there are a few episodes of Doctor Who of the modern era that didn't bother. It's quite rare, though.
Damn, she looked so good back then.
She still does.
Yes. I think she was my first high school crush.
Yeah, as you know, I didn't see Superboy until quite a few years after it aired on reruns in the UK. So, I mean, my first crush, I think, was Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane. It's interesting that I think both of our first crushes are love interests of Superman. Maybe that should have been an early clue as to what our futures would be.
Okay, as much as I like Doug Barr as an actor, He
he
doesn't
doesn't make a
look.
convincing college age student.
Yeah.
And I know he's not actually a student, it's just a cover, I think. Unless he actually is a student.
No, no, it's just a cover.
It's just weird. You would think football players would be kind of famous within most American colleges. They're usually, top dog at any college, the football players, because they bring in so much money. But so you would think if you saw a bunch of guys dressed as football players that you'd never seen before, you'd notice. Oh well.
Yeah, you got to also remember this is Lana's first year at the
True.
college, so
Yeah.
she might not have been.
Yeah, we are. So I think they could have edited that slightly better with the shot of the gun and all of that. Maybe a nice sort of music cue to make it sort of sound a bit threatening or whatever. But I mean, you can tell the idea was there. I appreciate they tried.
And
And
you
I
got to
don't know.
remember that the Salkinds were not used to television production at that time.
Yeah. It's almost like they'd seen that done before on television, but weren't entirely sure how it was done. Because it's very difficult to actually pinpoint that stuff as a viewer. Because there's so much that goes into, TV shooting and editing and all of that stuff that the viewer will never actually get to see. So I don't know. Yeah, the Salkinds' inexperience with the format of television is probably the reason.
Written by Fred Freiberger, so
Hmm.
obviously this is one of the wonky ones that he did.
I like Fred Friedberger, but I mean, not every episode someone writes will be a good one. I'm trying to think what are the other episodes he wrote? Like, what are his better ones? If you can.
Well, I do know that he worked on Julia Technikal. I think he wrote that one as well.
I'd say it's marginally better, but it would have been significantly better with someone else playing Lex.
Definitely.
That's pretty much the biggest flaw in that episode, other than some of the wonky visual effects, is just Lex Luthor. Still, Leo's always fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh yes. That's one thing you can always say about the season 1 episodes. If it's a Lex episode, you're gonna get some fun with Leo. And I mean,
I've always had a thing for the henchmen of villains. I just think they're hilarious. Like Otis is great.
Miss
That you
Tessmacher.
look at Miss Teschmacher. I mean, apparently that's a character James Gunn's bringing back for Superman Legacy, so that's cool. I don't know if that's just the code name for casting or whatever, but that's the rumor anyway. But even in Batman and stuff, like it's always fun seeing the henchman of a villain. Just look at Batman '89 with Bob the Goon, who had his own action figure, and I don't think had a single line of dialogue in the movie. But everybody loved
No, he
Bob the
did.
Goon.
He did.
Did he? Oh, well, he had very little dialogue in the movie.
He had actual one line of dialogue.
What
It's
was it?
when the Joker's in his lair, and he had sent Bob out to take photos of all the people involved in tracking down the Batman case and all that. He walks up to the Joker and says, "The photos,"
Right.
and that's pretty much it.
But it's the thing, though. I don't know anyone that that likes that movie that doesn't love Bob the Goon. He's kind of a legend in that movie, just purely because some of Jack Nicholson's best scenes are acting opposite him. Like when he's doing the his take on the what is it, Jack Palance character? I forget the name, and he's got Bob. He's like rubbing his face, like you're my number one guy. All of that. It's just so much fun, and it's just Bob doesn't say anything, but we love him, and Leo is much the same way. Really getting off topic now. Lana's been kidnapped, and they've tried burning down this lab after stealing the jetpack or whatever. Yeah. first bit of superheroics, I suppose, on the show, and we almost missed it. But you know,
And it's Superheroics done without a costume.
yeah. Which, let's face it, by Smallville would start to get tired. Well, by the end of Smallville, I mean. Thankfully, they did give him a costume, but man, I wish we could have had at least one season of him as Superman.
And now we've got our thug, basically admitting.
What's his name? You said the actor's name a minute ago. What was it?
Dunbar.
Right. Yeah, I like him, but there are some moments in this episode that are really dodgy with his acting. I remember when we did, like a while ago, if people want to go and search it out, we did an episode of the podcast, which I think was called The Tale of Two Superboy Pilots or something. I think it was a funny name like that. But yeah, there's a moment where I actually did cut in a clip of it, where that actor, it's like he can't decide what facial expression to pull, so he just pulls all the ones he can think of. So he does like 10 expressions in like 5 seconds, and it's really odd.
And the funny thing is, one of his biggest claims to fame was being on The Fall Guy with Lee Majors, and he was always great on The Fall Guy.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it was just a very strangely directed episode. A lot of these early season 1 episodes, even if they've got good scripts, sometimes the direction can be a little bit strange.
Well, this one was directed by Colin Chilvers, and he always did a good job.
He did. Who knows? Maybe because it was it's supposed to be the pilot. Maybe the Salkinds were on set that day, and maybe they were giving suggestions.
Or just because of the way they were editing it.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he expected they would cut away a lot sooner than they did. Something like that. I do like this scene a lot. Like Clark working out just how far they could have gotten. He shows that he's not just being proactive, but that he's, got the makings of a future investigative reporter in him. Something that I think season 1 did quite well, actually. There's a lot of little hints to what he may become.
Yeah, Gerard did some of it in season 2, but it just started to fall by the wayside by the end of the season.
And then, let's face it, for season 3, he wasn't reporting at all. He was investigating still, but I don't think he was ever supposed to be investigating. That wasn't his job at the Bureau. In much the same way that, classic Superman, supposedly the reason he took the job at the Daily Planet wasn't because he loved reporting or anything. It was because that's how he could find out the news sooner than anyone and tried to get there to help as many people as possible. Like, it was a means to an end.
Yeah.
I realise that's changed quite a bit over the years, but yeah. I imagine that's why Clark joined the Bureau, because he wanted to be able to investigate supervillains a lot sooner than he was. Let's face it, in season 1 and 2, there's an awful lot of watching the television and hoping a villain just jumps out in front of a camera, which did happen a fair bit, especially with Metallo.
And of course, using stock footage from NASA here.
Very good use of stock footage, to be fair. If you can't afford to build a set and all that stuff, perfectly acceptable solution.
The only problem is the quality of the stock footage doesn't match up with the actual program.
Yeah, but I mean, you get that all the time, though, don't you, in old TV shows?
I think when it comes to using stock footage, they did it a lot better back in the 50s and 60s when they were still using black and white.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to recognize differences in color grading or just visual quality. I mean, it's not super out of place just purely because the whole thing was edited down to VHS. Like, it's all got that sort of compressed feeling to it.
Yeah.
So, it's not super glaring. I've seen much worse examples.
I mean, if Warner Brothers would just do an HD, upgrade on this, they could probably fix the quality.
Probably. If that's stock footage, it's still available, and if it was shot on film, which I assume it was, because most of these things were, yeah, I imagine after cleaning that up and doing a HD transfer of the show itself, I imagine the differences will be slightly less noticeable if they put the work in.
You mentioned in one of our previous commentaries how that whole karate thing when he's flying just doesn't look right, and that was one of the moments where it doesn't look right.
Yeah,
it's one thing you can say about Gerard flying.
I never quite liked the whole kung fu pose that John did when he was flying. Like, it was an interesting idea, but I just don't think it works that well. It is this scene where he does the facial expression thing. I wonder if you'll spot it. If you'll know when you see it that that's what I'm referring to. It's strange. Even some of the stuff that they clearly shot themselves, the quality is different. It's weird. It was that close up on his face, by the way.
Yeah.
But it kind of works. It just shows he's not just a criminal. He's possibly also slightly insane.
Well, to steal from the federal government, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. He'd probably do quite well if he just, moved his operation to Gotham City.
Assuming, of course, Gotham exists in this universe.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Lois and Clark had a reference to Gotham, Superman Returns has a reference to Gotham, but they're the only ones in live action for a long time. Yeah, this visual effects shot.
The visual effects shot is pretty bad, but nothing is as bad as the actor who's talking to him.
Yeah. The visual effects shot, though, it almost looks like they found like a really low quality photo to stick behind him. Like, if they just used a higher quality reference image for the background, it probably would have looked somewhat passable. But who knows? Maybe a high resolution image was more expensive.
Yeah.
We know what the sale kinds are like, Save money wherever possible.
Which is not a bad thing when you're doing a TV show, but...
Absolutely not. It was definitely a worse thing when they were making Superman the movie, though, because clearly Richard Donner just wanted to make the best movie possible, and they wanted to make it on the cheap. Which is probably why all those special effects, like flying sequences that they, all the tests that they'd done, why none of them were usable. Like, Donner threw all of those out and started again when he came on. And when you look at it, you can totally see why. Although I do still kind of like the test they did where they just had a dummy with a Superman costume and I think they fired it out of a cannon or something. It was just... And there was I think there was one that was like a glider that they built. So it was just like the cape was the wings and it was like a remote control plane. Might have been okay for a few shots if he was in the distance, but man, it's funny to watch. I don't hate this sequence. I think the visual effects let it down a little bit, but especially that shot of Stacy falling. She just doesn't seem to be moving fast enough. But I don't think it's a terribly shot sequence. I think with better compositing.
And not for nothing, but you push somebody out of out of a helicopter like that, they're not going to continuously spin and spin and spin and spin.
Mm. But it almost looks like she's not even falling half the time. It just looks like she's just spinning in midair. So it's like Superboy could just take his own sweet time catching her, because at that rate, it's going to take her about 4 hours to reach the ground.
Now that looked pretty good.
Yeah. And the chemistry, between John and Stacey was just totally evident from day one. You totally believe that she's just immediately enthralled with this guy. And plus you've got TJ showing that he's basically the Jimmy Olsen stand-in. And he does a great job. I think, Jim Calvert would have been an excellent Jimmy Olsen.
Mm.
Maybe the best Jimmy Olsen. Who knows?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to beat Mark McClure.
It is, but I don't know. I don't think Jimmy was ever particularly well used in that movie, or any of them really. And let's face it, by Superman 4 and Supergirl, like, his hairline has receded so much that the fact he's still playing Jimmy as a kid became kind of laughable. But that's not his fault. And not for nothing, the compositing could be better, but that wasn't a bad... These aren't bad flying shots, really. Just in terms of the wire work and the way that they're sort of framed and all of that, it's better than some of the flying stuff on Lois and Clark by a significant margin. It's a shame we didn't have more sequences like this as the show went on, but I do know that usually pilots for TV shows have a little bit more money than the rest of the show because they want to get viewers in, which makes it ironic that they didn't even air this episode first.
Yeah.
They were so determined that, it's the first episode of a Superman show, we've got to make it a Luthor episode, and it's just like, yeah, but have you seen the guy that's playing Luthor? I do feel bad continually shitting on Scott Wells' performance, but anyone that watched the episode where we reacted to an old interview with him knows that we do respect the man. We just don't respect his, acting ability.
Well, his acting ability at the beginning. At the end, he was so much better.
He was, but I still don't think he was that good. Like, Luthor Unleashed is his best episode, but yeah, he's still not great. Sherman Howard was immediately better. They, just coming from a wire work standpoint and just the way the flying looks, as I say, compositing is the only thing that I think lets it down.
Yeah,
although that shot, maybe not.
They definitely by the end of the season and by season 2, they've gotten the compositing better.
Slightly. There are still some visual effects shots where I think things actually got worse over time, but it's few and far between. And let's face it, every episode can't be Roads Not Taken.
Very true. Very true.
And even Roads Not Taken, the visual effects are not why that episode is so good. The visual effects are probably the weakest part of that, really.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why that episode is so good is because of the acting and the story.
Yeah. So that was Countdown to Nowhere, which was supposed to be the first episode, but ended up being the 5th episode. I don't hate the episode. I think when we did the introduction, maybe I was a little bit hard on it, saying I don't think this is a good one.
Justifiably so.
It's not great, but it's not that bad. I think Jewel of Technicolor is a worse episode, in my opinion, even though the stuff with Lana and her father is better than anything in this episode, I think. But it's just not quite enough. But no, I don't hate Countdown to Nowhere, but I'm not going to be in any rush to watch this one again anytime soon.
Yeah, the the other version of it, which was the second time they aired it, when they did it in a rerun, when they re-edited it and added in those bumper scenes, made it better.
Yeah, I agree.
And I kind of wish that they had on the DVD set done it as a special feature. Either put the bumper scenes in, or put the whole episode with the bumpers in as a second, like an alternate version of Countdown to Nowhere.
Yeah, and maybe they just didn't have access to the broadcast tapes or something for that version. But I mean, they own the copyright. They could have just got one of the bootlegs and put that on. If it's in the bonus features, I doubt anybody would have actually complained if the quality was abysmal. I think people would have just appreciated having it there at all.
Yeah, even if it is poor quality, from somebody's bootleg, it's not the first time that a production company, when they're doing a DVD or a Blu-ray, has done that. I'll give you an example. I recently got the Blu-ray box set of The Man with No Name trilogy,
Right.
Clint Eastwood's spaghetti westerns, and
I've always meant to check those out. I've never seen any of Clint Eastwood's westerns, any of them. So at some point I will.
They're very good. The Blu-ray copy that I have, it has all 3 movies, and there's a guy doing an interview on it, and he says that when he watched it on ABC television here in the U.S., they had commissioned a new scene to go at the beginning of the film to kind of explain what's going on, but also to kind of add in some time filler, because they had to cut.
They did that a lot with television back in the day. That's why there's infamously a 4-hour version of Superman the movie and Superman 2. There's probably a 4-hour version of 3 and 4 as well. I don't know.
But this scene, it actually has actor Harry Dean Stanton in it. He's in a
oh, I know who. Yeah.
But he's in this this vintage style business suit, from the 1800s, and there's a guy that you never see him by face. You just see him from the neck down, or just shots of Eastwood's eyes, and he's basically playing Eastwood, and he's being taken out of prison to go into this town to do what ends up happening in the film. So that scene is actually on the Blu-ray, but it's a bootleg quality copy of it.
I doubt the fans complained about the quality. I'm sure they were just ecstatic that it was there. And, if you do want to check out the alternate opening and ending of this episode, because that is really the only thing that changed. I don't know if there was any, I don't know if they tightened up any of the edits throughout the rest of the episode or not.
They might have. I'm not sure. It's been so long since I saw the full version of the alternate cut.
Yeah. So, if you do want to just see the beginning and end, I have uploaded it to my personal YouTube channel, but if you look in the video description for this episode, I'll try to remember to include a link.
Yep.
But you can check it out there. And it's funny because the alternate outro for this episode is maybe my favourite Superboy to Clark transformation scene in the entire show, which is why it's so annoying it's not on the official DVDs. And it's where Superboy is leaving. He's like, oh, bye, Clark. And then the moment Superboy's off screen, you see Clark stumble in. He knocks a picture off the wall. And it's a really nice little moment of physical comedy that John didn't get to do very often. And I don't know, I think it's a really great moment. And it's a shame that it's only in a version of the episode that you can't get hold of officially. So thankfully I have put it onto YouTube, which is taken from my, I think, 2004 era bootleg DVDs.
Yep.
So yeah, it is available, technically it's archived. I wish it was in better quality, but it is archived.
Still wish I'd held on to my bootleg copies, because my bootleg actually had the alternate version.
Maybe I'll just rip the episode for you.
All right, cool.
I'll just give it to you. Maybe I'll cut. I hope I remember to cut this out, but if not, I doubt Warner Brothers will mind if I'm ripping a copy from a bootleg just to give to you. I'm not uploading it to YouTube, so I doubt they'll mind too much.
I believe the rules with Jack Sparrowing things is you can, as long as you're not making money off of it, and you're not doing it for public performance.
Yeah.
And you can't have more than, let's say, 60 copies on your person.
Well, that's fine. It's going to you. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching our commentary on Countdown to Nowhere, the original Superboy pilot, but not the one that aired. Not the worst episode from season 1, but also far from the best. But we do hope you've enjoyed watching alongside us. Be sure to tune in again next week for another commentary. Not sure what it will be yet, but I'm sure we'll have fun. Thank you all so much. Goodbye.